guys, back with a new video for last Epoch. In this video we're going to go over my updated version of the mana stacking Spark Charge Sorcerer. So I have made a few changes to the build, and the route I went was basically getting more defense, more sustain, and so I actually just made two versions. I'll have both planners listed in the description. You can check out. One's going to be a DPS version that'll probably be able to do up to like what 500 corruption, all T4 bosses, pretty much all content, and will be more focused on damage while still having a very good amount of defense. And then after that we'll go over my version, which is the version I'm playing right now. It's going to be a little bit more focused on defense, mana sustain, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so before we go into the build, let's go run some monoliths so you can kind of check out how this build performs. So you can see we're at 891 corruption. We'll try to go up to about 900-ish in this video, maybe. We'll see. So basically we're going to do a mono, and then we'll do the boss. So you can see the boss DPS, and Shade can take a little bit of time to kill. So I'll have him at like the end of the video. If you want to check out what it looks like, you can go skip to there and watch that part. Okay, so first of all, how is the build holding up in this level of corruption? And I'm going to say about around 700 corruption is when things start to get hard. There is more things that will actually kill you, like at this level of corruption, Shade of Orbis can be pretty difficult. I've failed quite a few of them actually, because now he's doing so much damage that either he just one-shots you with certain abilities, or he is just doing so much damage that it's very hard to actually sustain your mana, and he's constantly draining your mana because of the amount of damage he's doing. But that being said, I do think the build is still capable of doing 1000 corruption. It's just not going to be like, free 1k corruption AFK. You actually have to play, and you have to actually play the game and dodge some abilities and that kind of stuff, and play good in order to actually reach higher levels of corruption, I think. But that being said, yeah, definitely 1k is doable. Okay, so let's do a monolith. Alright, so we're in the monolith, and basically what we're going to do is I'll show you just kind of like how most people would normally play, like you just run and attack. And then we'll kind of do what I am normally doing when I run these monoliths, and is basically just run to the objective, group things up, and then blow them up with the black hole and that kind of stuff. But anyways, you can kind of see our damage isn't really like super high, but definitely doable. It's not like super bad, I'd say. Defense still pretty good. It really depends on the type of monsters you encounter, and I'll go over some EHP calculations after this, so you can kind of see how much health this character actually has, or like effective health, right? And if you're interested in the actual build guide, I suggest you check out the first video I made, because that one will go over a little bit the skills a little bit more in detail and that kind of stuff. But in this one, we're just going to go over the updates. Alright, so we did get a crit shrine. Probably shouldn't have really clicked that. It doesn't really matter. We are pretty much almost crit capped on this build. Okay, so that's sort of what I do is, and these damage over time is definitely a problem. Alright, so let's just see. This is usually what I do. I just kind of group everything up, pop the black hole, and then just kill everything. And everything just blows up, because one of our main damage sources is actually going to be these spark charges, right? See, my spark charges are doing about 12 million or 12 million per spark charge, and these can all shotgun, so that means if I have a whole bunch of enemies grouped up together, the spark charges on each monster will all, when they detonate, they'll affect everything in the radius, right? So you can kind of blow things up, and that's why black hole is nice, because it pulls everything in to this one little area, and everything just kind of blows up. Okay, so let's do this mage. I haven't done one of these guys in a while, mainly just because it's just takes a lot of time, right? But these guys are not really a problem. You just kind of take and spank. The only real deadly move he has is, I would say, the frost little beam he does when he spins around. That thing can be a little bit of a problem. Okay, let's go and do the objective. So this is how I'm normally doing it. You see, I did change my boots a little bit. I'll go over for doing the monoliths, we do have the haste boots now. So we're just going to group everything up like this, and then we'll do the black hole, and then everything kind of dies, and a lot of times it lags, and I've crashed the game quite a few times doing this, but it is kind of fun. Hey, 2 LP Morning Frost. Man, every time I start recording, I get a good drop. Alright. So let's just go over to the objective. It's over here. This guy here. I'll just drop the black hole on him and just right click away. Use our flame ward. There we go. The other guy is down here. So the same thing, black hole on him. I'll just use flame ward because it does give us a little bit more damage. Alright, so that is the monolith. Alright, so let's go do the boss. So the monolith I'm pushing right now is the Spirits of Fire for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, I was just trying to farm up my armor blessing to a good amount, and I just didn't get a good roll for the longest time, so I just kept doing it, and eventually this was like 700 corruption, so I was like, alright, let's do it. Let's just push this one, and another good thing about this one is, well, the bosses, there's 3 bosses, right? And since we went over that spark charges can shotgun, alright, so we can group the bosses up and shotgun them, and it ends up being a very, very, very fast kill. So this monolith area, though, it does have some very, very annoying monsters. Like most specifically, the like shaman guys that shoot these big like meatballs at you. Those guys are very annoying. But end of the day, I think having a boss that's super easy to kill, very fast kill, is probably gonna help me out in the long run. So let's just see here. So for bossing, I do use my frenzy boots because I mean it does give a bit of damage, right? So the goal for this is, first of all, we're going to try, well, we're just going to try to group them up. So come in here, they spawn in, they do their fireballs, and, oh, it looks like we've got them. Oh, this guy's not grouped up. So most of these guys' attacks we can kind of tank. The one thing we can't really tank is the, like, fire spray that they do. Oh, here we go. So we got them grouped up now. So this thing here, I can stand in it for a bit, but it does drain my mana a bit too much. So just jump out of those, and the rest we can just kind of tank. Okay, let's group them up again. So yeah, you can see this boss fight is pretty easy for this character because of the way spark charges work, and you just like shotgun everything and amount of flame charges. Okay, oh, I have to. Alright, and they're down, and last guy, we kill him. Yeah, that was a little bit dangerous. Alright. Oh, okay, that was a little bit sketchy at the end, but let's see if we could upgrade. No, we didn't. All right, so let's do some EHP calculations. So this app is called, or website is called Tunk Labs. I'll have a link in the description so you can go check out and maybe even, test out your character, see what kind of EHP your character has, or, a certain build. If you're wondering, well, how tanky is this build? Well, you can actually just put the numbers in here and it'll give you a general number. I don't really think this is 100% accurate, but I think it is kind of, very close. So, yeah, I'll have that in the description. You can check it out. So these stats are from the actual build planner I have for my ideal gear. You can go check out, and not that one, this one here. So we have our damage taken from mana before life. I have it at 70%. Now it is possible to go all the way up to 80. You'll have about, a lot more EHP, about 200k. But for, I think 70% is sort of realistic for what most people have. I'm currently at 68%. So you can see something like that. But we'll leave it at 70 for now. Okay, so we have Lightning Aegis, Arcane Shield, Flame Ward. There's 3 Flame Ward skills here because our Flame Ward has another 2 multiplicative damage reduction multipliers in the passive tree that we have here. Then we have the less damage taken from Shock. That's from the Rune Master passive tree. Okay, so that all combined with our armor and our endurance threshold gives us a EHP of 146k to Fizz, non-Fizz 94. So you can see our damage reduction for non-fizz damage is 98.88%, and for fizz damage it's 99.28%. So reducing all incoming damage by about 99%. Very similar to a Transcendence build in Path of Exile, which is pretty cool. So let's just see what does our EHP look like when we don't have Flame Ward up and when we don't have mana. Well, worst case scenario, this is what our EHP looks like. We don't have any mana, so you're just completely out of mana. You don't have any Flame Ward charges. Well, this is your EHP. You know, pretty not that high, so you're definitely vulnerable in this situation. And if we have just Flame Ward down, you can see our average EHP is 43k, so that's definitely a very good amount of EHP for when Flame Ward is down. You can see for non-fizz a little bit lower, but these are the numbers. I'll have it linked in the description. You can go check out. Okay, so let's go into the character, what we've changed. So basically you might notice that my mana pool is a lot higher now, and basically I decided that, well, you know, so before with Mana Strike I was saying that it was very hard to sustain the mana drain because when we drop below a certain amount of mana we don't get crit strike chance anymore with Mana Strike because of this Celestial Precision node that gives us current mana, base crit based on our current mana. So problem with that is when you do drop very low on mana, you lose all your crit and then you don't get any mana back from this critical mana node. So up till now I'd been using this critical rejuvenation node that removes Mana Strike's critical strike multiplier but gives it like a huge amount of base crit. So basically you're always going to be critting even if you're, you know, at 10% mana. So I was thinking, well, you know, it really does suck that we have to lose our crit on Mana Strike, because before, when I was using this node, Mana Strike was at about 9,000 tooltip DPS. Well, now it's at 61,000 DPS. So, and if we like teleport user buffs, it goes up to like 80,000 or 82,000 tooltip DPS. So basically, removing this node basically just like gave me ×6 ×7 damage on my Mana Strike, and that you do really feel the damage, and it is very nice. And so basically now we can stack mana and get damage, right? Because we have this Mana Spark node here. So Mana Strike has additional melee lightning damage equal to a percentage of your current mana. So 15% of our mana is added as flat lightning damage. So this is like, right, almost like 200 flat added damage, give or take, right? Just kind of estimate. So now we can actually stack a lot of mana, get more sustain, more defense, and we can also get more damage. So now it does feel a lot better, because before you're just like stacking mana and the only thing you're getting out of mana was a little bit of defense, right? But now you're actually getting defense and damage, and it makes stacking mana feel a lot better. And I think it is sort of the way that these builds should be played, right? You stack a certain attribute and you get defense and damage. It does make things a lot better. Okay, so what else did we change? What did we change to go to this different setup? So basically, the main thing we've changed is going to be our idols. We're not using the spark charge on hit idols. You can see all of our idols are just mana and flat percent mana for these small ones. And then for the big ones, we have mana and armor, and then we also have melee elemental damage on these. And the small ones haven't really changed. Another thing I've changed is I've added T7 mana as the main affix for my legendary items. So you can see here on the amulet, on my Fragment of the Enigma, I got a new one, and this one has the mana. And then on my relic, I also have another T7 mana roll. So basically prioritizing mana on the legendary items. The dagger is the same, the rest of the gear is the same. Well, I have made a few upgrades for my gloves, my rings, and that kind of stuff. Also for my body armor, I made a new one. Well, actually I've made quite a few. I don't know if you want to see my stash of all the gloves I've tried to make. So my body armors, there's a couple that I swap around with. This one has 30%, basically mind over matter. This one that I'm running right now is 21%. And I think basically you have to sort of feel how the build plays. And so if you're taking too much damage to your mana, you're going to drain a lot of mana. And then you're not going to be able to regenerate your mana, and then basically it makes you less tanky because you don't have enough mana to actually, you know, sustain the damage. So it's kind of something you have to do as you play, kind of get a feel for your current character, how much of this damage dealt to mana for health you can actually run, right? In my case, I think about Right now I'm at 67%, but I think 70% to, yeah, about 60 to 70% is something that you should aim for. It's definitely doable. Maybe over 75% is going to be a bit hard, especially at this level of corruption. At lower corruption, like what, under 500, like 400, 300, should not be a problem to run like 80 or 85% or more. But anyways. Okay, so we did lose some damage changing the idols to just pure mana, but we did gain quite a lot of damage on our mana strike. You can see before the tooltip was 9,000, now it's 61,000. So we gained quite a lot of damage from that. And in the passive tree, I've also changed a few things around. So I've gotten rid of all of these mana strike nodes, or the spark charge nodes, and we put them into Shattered Aegis so we get more armor. And then I just had 1 point left over, so I put it over here just for more health and mana. And you can see I have 1,060 health and I have 1,060 endurance threshold, just like perfect, which is kind of cool. Okay, so for the gear and passives, that's pretty much all I have changed right now. And then let's go over the skills. So there's a few things we want to mention. First of all, mana strike. So basically, at this level of corruption, especially when you're fighting bosses like Shade of Orbis, he's going to be doing tons of damage and it's going to drain a lot of your mana. So in order to actually sustain the mana, what I've had to do is I've had to spec out a rune sap, which is kind of sad because this gave a lot of damage. Also losing 10% attack speed, so I can go and pick up 4 points in Bountiful Victory. So this gives you 12 mana when you hit a rare or boss. So on bossing, on maps, this does give a lot of mana sustain, and since our mana strike is doing quite a lot of damage, see, we are actually getting kills with mana strike now, so this does proc every now and then, which is kind of nice. And that's pretty much all of the changes. Oh, and then 1 more point into mana spark, so we have 15% of our current mana as base lightning damage. So that is sort of the mana strike tree, sacrificing a little bit of damage here and there to gain more mana sustain. But at the end of the day, we did gain quite a bit more damage because we actually do have crit multi with mana strike now. Okay, so Frost Claw, this skill hasn't really changed. And enchant weapon, I did try out some things like getting chilled and all this kind of stuff, but now that I'm actually doing a lot of damage with mana strike, I've spec'd back into thundering, so we get some more added melee lightning damage and increased melee lightning damage. Alright, Flame Ward hasn't really changed. There's one thing that you could do if you're really lazy, is you could go into this Astonish node, so cast Flame Ward when stunned. So if you played Path of Exiles, it's kind of like cast when damage taken, because the way stun works in this game is if you take a hit that does a % of your HP and ward combined, so it has to do with like a certain threshold, right, of damage. Basically, if you take a big hit, then you get stunned. So what this is going to do is, whenever you take a big hit, Flame Ward is cast automatically. Basically, that's kind of what it does. The reason I'm not using it now is since we are only having 1k health, we do get hit by enough damage to stun us quite often. So you end up kind of getting stunned all the time. Well, not really all the time, but enough to that where it just kind of burns through your Flame Ward charges, and I didn't really like it, especially on bosses when their melee attacks are doing like, what, 30 to 40% of your health per hit, and that's just going to keep proccing Flame Ward, and then you end up in situations where you don't really have Flame Ward when you need it. Okay, let's go over Lightning Blast. So Lightning Blast, see, I've changed the tree up a little bit, and the main thing is, well, I was before going for the Spark Novas, and one day I just decided to try and test Lightning Blast. So I pulled Lightning Blast out, put it on my bar, and I was just hitting some monsters with Lightning Blast, and I noticed that this wasn't even proccing at all. Even at like 100%, I would hit the monster and I would only see the damage from Lightning Blast. There was no Spark Nova going off, so I'm not sure, maybe this is bugged. I'm pretty sure it is bugged because it's just not working, or it wasn't working when I was trying it. So gone back to the Spark charges, and yeah, so far it's pretty cool. This final Spark node here, very cool for like instant damage. So this will just detonate all the Spark charges and blow things up. Feels really good because Spark charges do have a delay. Like it's like, what, 1 second or point? Oh, it's 1 second. Oh, here it says 1 second, and then on the other tooltip it says 0.7. So I'm not sure, maybe cooldown recovery is affecting this. I'm not sure. Seems like it is. But anyways, this makes the damage feel a little bit more instant. And aside from that, the tree hasn't really changed. Okay, so that is pretty much the character. the update. Basically, now we are just stacking mana. We are actually getting damage from stacking mana. And yeah, things have been going pretty good. We'll hit 1k corruption sometime soon, maybe sometime this week. I haven't really had a lot of time to play. But yeah, that's going to be it for this version. So there's a couple things I want to say about the DPS version we'll get into right now. Okay, so this is the DPS version. Basically, the goal for this version is to get a decent size mana pool. Like, I don't know, 600, 700 should be fine, maybe even 500 doable. Because you don't really need as much mana as you have life, because the way the Mind Over Matter works is each point of mana guards 5 health, right? So you only, you don't really need the exact amount of health to mana ratio. You can have a lot less and still be fine. But, having a bigger mana pool is going to allow you to have better sustain, basically. So one thing we're doing differently is we're using the Devotion Amulet. So this is kind of something that if you just want to go for pure damage, you could do. I still do think Strong Mind is going to be the best amulet because of the stun threshold it provides. You can see on my current character, I have 3,800 stun avoidance. This tooltip is so bugged out, but I'm not really sure what this means, but I definitely do feel that I'm not being stunned as much by these little hits now that I have started stacking a lot of mana. And you can easily get up to about 1,700, even 2k mana if you have really good gear, and then that's going to give you ton more stun avoidance and more mana strike damage. So at the end of the day, Strong Mind synergizes a lot better with this build because of the stun avoidance, I think. So there is another amulet like Orion's Eye that's going to have a lot more mana and all this kind of stuff, but it's very hard to find with LP, first of all, and you're going to lose all your stun avoidance. So I think you're going to end up just being stunned all the time without Strong Mind. Okay, so that being said, a Devotion, if you do want to have the max damage on this build, this is the amulet to go for, because first of all, it has 15% up to 15% lightning pen and lightning damage. Then you can slam on another 15% lightning pen and have 30% lightning pen on this amulet, which is very big. This also does give you endurance, so if you have a good enough roll, you can actually drop your plated gauntlets for the eternal gauntlets, which give you armor mitigation applies to damage over time, and this build can get up to about 4k armor, so that's going to be pretty decent. And aside from that, the stats we focus on for this build is going to be crit chance, crit multi, and intelligence, mainly intelligence. You can see we're getting intelligence on our relic. Our rings already had it, and that's pretty much it. If you do manage to get a fractured crown with LP, put intelligence on there. If you're going for the other version, then you probably want to get flat mana or the damage taken from mana for health. That's going to free up a slot on your armor. So also on the DPS version, instead of getting the damage taken from mana for health, Exalted Affix, we're going to go for T7 Intelligence and the Mana Strike. So you only really need about 40-ish to 50%, to do lower levels of corruption, like let's say even 500 is going to be doable with just 40 to 50%, I'd say. So don't really, if you're going to go for pure damage, then just go for the int, and you can see this build gets a decent amount. Okay, aside from that, these relics are kind of the same. You can go check them out in the planner, but basically just different kind of gearing, different priorities. And which version of the build do I think is better? Well, I definitely do think the mana stacking version, where we go for the armor and mana, is going to be a lot better at the end of the day. Just because you're probably not going to be able to do 1,000 corruption on the DPS version, because it's not going to have enough mana sustain. Okay, one thing to note about the DPS version is that we're still using critical rejuvenation here, because I'm not really sure how good the mana sustain is going to be. But if you did want to try, then just unspec this, so you actually do get crit multi with your mana strike, and that's going to be pretty insane. And then what you would do is you could take some points out of here and get some mana sustain if you need the mana sustain, right? Then you go into this like this and do something like this and do the same tree like this, and maybe this will work out fine. You'll have to kind of test it out yourself, but I think, yeah, overall this is kind of the way to go. All right, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I'm gonna leave you with the Shade of Orbis kill. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about the build or anything like that, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. And I'll probably be trying this same kind of build, the mana stacking build on different archetypes. So we'll try it on a Rune Master, maybe even try it on Spellblade just to see how those other masteries perform. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Return, but what of you?